Everything was sort of tingly and anxious. And then I remembered that morning that I had this big client lunch. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this lunch? Like, I've got to try and hold this together with, 5 high-end bankers that are going to want to talk about global markets in a very expensive restaurant for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And I had this wave of fear, like, I'm not going to be able to get through it. And then it just collapsed. It was like a tsunami of fear and panic swept through me. And I fell on the floor. I couldn't breathe. I was nauseous. I wanted to go to the toilet and vomit. I couldn't breathe. I had cold sweats. It was like, I thought I was dying. It was just such an extreme experience.
You're listening to KAren Swain, teacher of Deliberate Creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello, you're with Karen on Accentuate the Positive Media, and I'm so delighted today to have the founder of the Stillness Project, Tom Cronin, with me to have a chat about meditation. Hello, Tom, welcome.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along.
Thanks for chatting with us on Accentuate the Positive on Soul Traveller Radio. Now, Tom's got a fabulous story. I'm going to let Tom tell you a story, but he's also a man with a plan. He wants to teach only a billion people to meditate. Is that right?
Definitely inspire 1 billion people to meditate daily. I might be sort of quite worn out trying to teach 1 billion people, but certainly inspire 1 billion people to meditate. How they go about that's going to be numerous ways, but yeah. Yeah,
well, let's get into that a bit later. I'd love to hear your story. How did you find, what led you to meditation?
Yeah, it's quite an unusual path to get into, sitting in a chair meditating. I was a broker in finance, started out in 1987, the same year as Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street, and we led very similar lives, I must say. He was 22, I was 19, and he started out as a broker the same year that I did. And, it was very fast and furious. When I was watching that film actually come out recently, I was kind of getting shivers at how accurately they portrayed that industry back then in the late 80s. It was fun, it was fast, it wasn't really what I'd intended to do, but, it was certainly something that was very exciting for a young guy, fresh off from backpacking around the world and blowing lots of money. And, I was really drawn into the excitement of it. Before long, I was actually surprisingly very good at it, and I was given 6-figure salary in a fancy, fast car and a corporate Amex card, and given the instruction to go out and win clients' business. So by daytime, it was frenetic trading on a big, vast trading room floor of lots of guys yelling and screaming. And by nighttime, it was hitting the nightclubs, bars, and expensive restaurants till the wee hours of the morning. And this continued on for quite a number of years. But eventually what happened was my nervous system started to really fray at the edges and show a lot of wear and tear. There's only so much duress that we can put our system through before it starts to crack and break. So my system started to break with the load, and I started to experience some extreme panic attacks and depression, and eventually a deep agoraphobia where I couldn't leave the house, had to have time off work, and effectively I was experiencing, I guess you'd call it, a nervous breakdown, which was your nervous system's inability to process the information of the day.
I want to just back up just a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
Because, you're going to be speaking to a lot of people that have a similar lifestyle. But that fun, when did it start to go wrong? Because I'm all about deliberate creation, which is being deliberate in what we think. And when you are having fun, when you're thinking, this is great, I'm loving life, I'm loving this is fun, you're usually in that same sort of vibration that you can find when you meditate. You're in a joyful vibration, you're in a flow. I mean, I'm sure that you experienced flow during that time, like when things just started happening, things just went right for you, everything was lining up, all the ducks were just lining up and it was easy. Did you find that? Usually successful people do.
No, I wouldn't say that actually. I definitely wasn't in flow. I was in a state of fight-flight. So, in the day, it was so much adrenaline, that was fueling us. It wasn't a natural calm flow.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It was like high adrenaline, high cortisol, high norepinephrine pulsing through your body, split-second decisions, very little sleep. The room was thick with smoke. Everyone was smoking, and by 3 o'clock, everyone was drunk. It was pretty crazy times. And so your nervous system, you definitely flowed for me as a state of calm, harmonious alignment with natural law. This was certainly not that. This was a very force-filled, friction-filled, adrenaline-filled existence. And because the adrenaline was so high, you know, by 5, 6 o'clock, because you're making so many split-second decisions and yelling and screaming all day long, that the natural tendency is to continue on aligning with that natural, that synthetic high of adrenaline. And so you just are drawn to doing things that keep that momentum going, which is going to a noisy bar and taking cocaine and being in a nightclub with strobe lights at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday night, you know. Whereas now, you know, as a meditator, or what I'm naturally drawn to do at the end of my day is go to a yoga class or go to the beach and, you know, sit on the sand or sit under a tree or something that's aligned with my current energetic state. So, yeah, there was definitely no flow back then.
No flow. Well, you know, some people love that. I mean, I believe that
it was fun. That's why I was doing it.
Yeah, there are many experiences that we can have as physical beings, but I'm sort of just visualizing you as a young guy just in constant terror, like, because, this fear, like running on that fear that you're going to, you know, I don't know, you're dealing maybe with other people's money and fluctuation of the markets going up and down, and there's that constant fear that, as you said, that adrenaline, fear, fight, flight.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, when you say fear, because, you know, the line between excitement and fear is really narrow, and most of the time it was excitement, you know, in bars, high-fiving, racking up, you know, lines of Zambucas and, you know, spending $1,000 on a restaurant. You know, it was exciting, it was fun, it was adventurous, and, you know, it was just this fine line between fear and excitement that we constantly walked. Yeah.
But, okay. Keep going. So what happened to you? You crashed and burned.
Yeah, I crashed and burned. The nervous system just said, dude, what the heck do you think you're doing to me? So, you know, it wasn't like it just happened out of the blue. It was a gradual progression of things deteriorating, you know, chronic insomnia, being sort of really edgy and anxious, you know, developing quite an addiction to some drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And not because my life sucked, because I just enjoyed it again. You know, I was just really enjoying the highs. But then these symptoms started to exacerbate, and eventually it became full-blown panic attacks. And I didn't know what they were. It was just these extreme, debilitating experience of fear and dread and loathing. And if any of the listeners have experienced that, understand what I'm talking about. It was so crushing, this wave of nausea and fear and dread that would just shut you down, and you just didn't want to go anywhere. And this continued to exacerbate until one morning I woke up. It was in February 1996, and it was the day I had a really big client lunch, and I was getting ready for work, and I distinctly recall the morning. I woke up, and the pins and needles that I was getting with the panic was generally the worst in the morning when I'd wake up, be much more observant about the feeling level in the body and the overstimulation of the nervous system. But this morning it was really quite extreme, and then I went to the bathroom, I was getting ready, and everything was sort of tingly and anxious. And then I remembered that morning that I had this big client lunch, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this lunch? Like, I've got to try and hold this together with, you know, 5 high-end bankers that are going to want to talk about global markets in a very expensive restaurant for 2 hours. And I had this wave of fear, like, I'm not going to be able to get through it. And then it just collapsed. It was like a tsunami of fear and panic swept through me, and I fell on the floor. I couldn't breathe. I was nauseous. I wanted to go to the toilet and vomit. I couldn't breathe. I had cold sweats. It was like, I thought I was dying, you know. It was just such an extreme experience.
So you woke up in the morning feeling this, and it just got worse during the morning before you actually went out for work?
Yeah, I didn't make it to work that day.
How old were you at the time?
I was 29.
Right. Yep. Go on.
Yeah. So I managed to get some help from my partner. You know, she could see things were pretty dire, and I was keeping a lot of it to myself at that time, but it kind of the cat got out of the bag then. So I went down to the doctors. I actually went down on my own to the doctors. I remember that, and he said I needed to go home and bring my partner with me back. So I went home, went back down there, and then he basically shared what was happening to me, and he distinctly said that I was having a nervous breakdown. And, you know, we're all in there bawling our eyes out. You know, it was just, I just couldn't believe that would happen to me. It was just such a, you know, something I just couldn't fathom. I was master of the universe. I was Gordon Gekko. Like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, me got a breakdown, like what? And So it was a big wake-up call, and then that morning he sent me to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist pretty much said that, I'm, in a bad way. I need to take pharmaceutical drugs, and I need to keep coming back to him. It was really demoralising to be told by a guy that had plaques on his wall professing how incredibly skilled he is in the area of the mind that I'm an inherently stressful person and I need to live on these pharmaceutical drugs. It was almost like a lifetime sort of diagnosis, which was really crippling for me to be told that. And I really remember sitting in the hallway after that session at his clinic, and I was really crushed. And I kept taking the drugs, and it just, something didn't feel right for me over the weeks. I was still taking time off work. I couldn't go to work for a while. And I just felt inherently something was not right. I was moving further and further away from some truth. It was getting number. And at that time, I'd seen a documentary about a guy called Bruno Grollo, who was a big property developer, and he was actually a meditator.
Yeah.
And part of that story was that he was meditating.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it was like this light went on in my head. I'm like, it wasn't like he was in robes or sitting lotus. He was just in a chair in a suit.
He was a businessman, yeah.
He was a businessman, right? Yeah. And it was like this divine epiphany that that's what I want. I just wanted to experience that so badly.
That you didn't have to grow a beard and go to India and become
it's so relatable, It was just really exciting for me. And so, I basically went and started exploring meditation, and I looked at different techniques, different modalities, and there was a lot of different ones, from chakra clearing and crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls and all sorts of things. But then I found one that really was quite distinctly profound for me. It was very scientific and taught by a neuroscientist and a man in a suit, and I just really resonated with it. So, and that was effectively transcendental meditation or Vedic meditation. And, from that moment, it was like I'd been given the keys to life. It was like I'd finally felt like I was going home, and everything that I'd been looking for in my life was found in this practice.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And not so much, I just want to clarify something, because it was wrong wording. It wasn't in the practice. It's easy for us to revere practices and go get up with practice. The practice was the modality that helped me find me, the essence of me. So everything that I was looking for in life, I found in me through the practice, not in the practice.
So when I first started to meditate, so this is what a lot of people say to me, because I'm a seasoned meditator. I think I started meditating in my early 20s. I had a different reason. I was using meditation not to overcome an illness, but to find more of me, because I was on this path of who am I as a spiritual being, who am I as a healer, how can I develop my intuitive abilities, my psychic abilities, my healing abilities, and all that came through meditation, all that came through stillness. Let's call it stillness, because meditation, as you said before, can be like many different modalities. People think of it as guided meditation or this modality or that, but it's just stillness. What was happening? But when I first started meditating, my mind was just driving me crazy. I went up to Vipassana in my early 20s, and I thought I was going to die for the first 3 days because my mind was exploding. Was that happening when you first started meditating?
No, for a very different reason. The use of the mantra makes the meditation practice very different. The reason why we might have a mind exploding type experience is because there's nothing there to charm the mind and soothe the mind.
Yeah.
So it's like a baby.
To do.
Give it something to do. So it's like the baby in a cot that's kind of having a temper tantrum. It's just got nowhere to go, and it just gets screams and screams quite loudly. Whereas if you give it a little rattle or something, it will just sit there quietly, and it's got something to entertain itself. So the mind's constantly looking for charm.
Yeah.
And the sweet nectar of the vibration of the mantra was quite soothing. So I was blown away that, I had a mind that was out of control, and yet from the very first meditation I could sit there and just simply repeat that sound. And that's why I teach this, because I've found that when it comes to stressed people, this is what I've found anyway through my own practice and my own personal experience as a teacher, one of the most effective forms of meditation, because we've got something now that the mind will be entertained by when we repeat that effortless inside the head.
Focus on. Yeah. But a mind like yours, and a mind like most people's, I suppose, the monkey mind, even when you give it a flame to look at or a mantra to say or a guided meditation, it's still you know, it's still moving away and thinking about, oh, did I do that? Did I turn that? Oh, you know, I've got to do that, and then come back to it, and it's still moving, constantly moving away. What do you say? Because obviously you attract a lot of people that want to learn how to meditate. People that are, you know, they want to find more of themselves. So maybe they want to be more successful, and they think meditation is the key. What do you tell people about bringing that mind back to the focus? Because I think the word meditation just means focus, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes into many things. When you're doing a guided meditation, there's a bit of focus there. When you're doing contemplation or visualization, there's a little bit of focus there. When you're doing breath concentration meditation, there's focus there. With the mantra, there's some focus. We generally don't, in transcendental meditation or Vedic meditation, primordial sound technique meditation, which are all very similar, you generally don't use the word focus because that lends itself to some form of concentration. Now, with the transcending style meditations that I mentioned, if we're focusing on something, then we're not actually going to let it go. So the end result of repeating this mantra is that there's an effortless lure that the mantra has over the mind that pulls it towards a more charming proposition than thinking. And so the goal is not actually to be attached and focused on the mantra. The goal is actually to transcend the mantra itself. Mm-hmm. And the reason why the mind will actually transcend the mantra itself is because it's found something even more charming and more blissful than thinking or mantra. And that's pure consciousness, where the mind now surrenders into a realm of no thought, yet it's in a wakeful awareness state. So what we say generally as a guidance for the student is to effortlessly be aware of the mantra, but at the same time not to grip it in your hand like a vice-like grip, but just leave it there in the palm, and whenever it decides to just drift away, we're willing to surrender it as the mind suspends down into stillness. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's a very effortless practice that doesn't require concentration or focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Getting back to your story, so when you started, the doctor gave you the diagnosis of you're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life, and then you started meditating. What benefits did you, I mean, what happened?
Yeah, sure.
I know you've said your story many times, and you probably but it's a good story.
Yeah, sure. The first week was actually pretty turbulent, and it's really important people understand this. It wasn't like there was white turtle doves and church bells ringing. It was actually quite a wild week where I was quite challenged, because when we meditate, particularly with the deeper styles of meditation, the physiology goes into quite a deep state of rest, 4 times deeper than sleep metabolically in transcendence, which is quite a remarkable state of rest. It's a state of rest that the body's never experienced in its lifetime. And here in this meditation practice, it's now going quite remarkably deep. And in that state, what happens is there's a deep reorganization that's going on in your physiology, and it's starting to throw off the anomalies and reorganize itself at a higher level. And to do that, it must eradicate the stresses. So the first week was quite turbulent. You know, it was a lot of like feeling like the rug had been pulled out from underneath me and not knowing what on earth I was standing on. And it can be quite confronting for some students in the first week if they've got a lot of stress in their systems. It's going to be different for everyone. Some students experience in their first week quite a blissful sensation, a deep relaxation, sleeping really well, and just feeling really calm. For me, it was quite, I guess, turbulent in that it was bringing up a lot of stuff. A lot of some fear would be coming up. And then after the first week, it really settled down, and I started sleeping really well. I started to feel really light and really calm, and I was quite amazed at how quickly I recovered from all of those dispositions, you know, depression, anxiety, and insomnia. They kind of removed themselves quite quickly. So
you're saying after a week you were noticing huge effect?
Oh yeah, huge.
How often were you meditating at that time?
Twice a day. So that's
for how long?
20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed a change within the first couple of days. Yeah. Very
cool, very cool. Because I think what happens with a lot of people with meditation is they tend to compare their circumstances with somebody else. Like somebody starts meditating and they're in bliss straight away, and somebody's like, oh, I just can't do it. I've tried and I just can't do it. I don't like it. I can't do it. I can't get my head out of the, you know, like everyone has a different, it's a bit like birthing, you know, women compare their birthing. I mean, it's like everyone is different.
Absolutely.
That's what I'd like to sort of put out there, that everyone is different, and you've just got to find the fit for you. But
Sure.
You know, saying, you know, it's like my analogy is, it's like you turn the light on. Like I've got these lights, and when you turn the light on, you see the dirt. You know, you see the dust. You see all the stuff that maybe in that sort of panic, got to get done, gotta. You just don't see those limiting ideas that are running you, that are not really serving you. And when you turn the light on, you get to really see them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
So what were some of the ideas that were coming up that were slapping you around in that first week?
You know, I nearly stopped doing the practice because it was really uncomfortable. You know, I just kind of didn't know whether I was Arthur or Martha. You know, from going into transcendence and coming out into stress state and having a lot of anxiety and sort of emotions sort of moving around a fair bit. It's like the analogy I use for my students when I teach is that it's like, you know, cleaning out a pond in your backyard, that you take one scoop of a shovel and scoop all the muck out of that pond, you know, not all the muck, but one shovel load of muck out of that pond, all the silt that's been building up for years and years, and you scoop one shovel load out, well, the water's become incredibly murky now.
Yeah.
Even though technically more of the gunk is out of the pond, the pond itself looks very murky. And so this is what I share with my students in that first 2 weeks, and we see this a lot on our retreats, where we go much deeper. And we get much deeper into the bottom of the pond and some of the deeper stresses that are kind of stored deep down in the body. We start unlocking some of those deeper ones on the retreat because of our extended practice that we go through. It can really stir up the muck in the body. And as those stresses are starting to dissipate and dislodge, there can be some uncomfortable sensations. So that first week was a little bit turbulent, and, you know, it's given some really good support, and that's the importance of having a teacher with your meditation practice. I can't emphasize that enough, because if you do start meditating, the whole point of meditating is that you want something to be different. If you didn't meditate, you wouldn't want something to be different. So, you know, the whole point of meditating is that you want something somehow to change in your life for the better, obviously. But not understanding how that's going to actually occur and why that might occur, it's really important we get some support and some guidance around that, because you're going to get some experience sometimes that you're going to have no idea why that's happening, and a good teacher to support you through that process is going to be really important.
I want to say something, because I think this is very important, because this happened to me as a young girl. So as I said before, the reason I started meditating was not for health or to get better, but to expand. To expand my awareness, to expand my intuition, to expand my ability to, at the time I was doing hands-on healing, you know, to channel energy through me like I want. And I did expand. And I became so empathic that I couldn't go to the supermarket, because I was just feeling, you know, all the thoughts involved in the advertising of the Kellogg's, you know, of the cereal, and, you know, all those thoughts. That was just, I felt like your nervous breakdown when I used to go to the supermarket. I felt overwhelmed with information because I was so expanded. And this is something a lot of people don't tell meditators, that you do expand. You become more sensitive to vibration. You become more sensitive to the vibration of your thoughts. So your negative thoughts hurt more, but your joyful thoughts feel better. But your taste changes, you know, your sight changes, well, unless you get older, and you know, your hearing, I mean, you start to expand. And for me, no one was teaching me how to control that empathy. I couldn't be in crowds, and what I understood was, because I was expanding so much vibrationally, I had to clean up my thoughts. I had to clean up that muck at the bottom of the pond, you know, because that was hurting me more, because I was more sensitive to it. And because I was more sensitive to it, I was sensitive to it in myself and in others. And so feeling other people's negative emotion, you know, because I was sort of at a similar vibration to them, I was a mess in my early 30s, you know. So meditation was wonderful, but was awful too, because of this expansion. And yeah, it took me a while. I think I probably wasn't until my 40s that I understood that I really needed to clean up my own vibration, because I could only perceive in others what I was vibing in myself. So if I was loving myself, then I could feel that love from others, and I wasn't available to their pain and their hurt if I wasn't in my own pain and my own hurt. That was something I felt very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meditating.
Yeah.
Did you find something similar? Have you found your intuitive abilities have expanded your awareness?
You definitely become, I remember my teacher telling me we're removing the barnacles of numbness.
Yeah.
And that's really the refinement process, and to detect the right action, right thought, right words requires a great deal of intuition and refinement of awareness, and that is done through sensitivity and refinement of our vehicles. So obviously in that space you're going to be fairly sensitive to the world around you. So yeah, it can be quite challenging, and that is just part of the process of becoming less dense and more refined as a being. But yeah, it can get challenging. It's like the Princess and the Pea story. she
Absolutely.
Is the test of your sensitivity, is a test of your your process of refinement.
Actually, it just reminded me of something. I remember that story as a kid, and it stuck with me. And you've just brought that back to me. That's exactly what was going on, and I didn't think of it like that at the time. As a little girl, I remember that story and being sort of like really curious about this crazy woman that would feel a pea under 100 mattresses or something. It really captured my imagination.
She was so refined. That was their test for whether she was a princess or not.
We're going to come back. You're listening to KAren Swain, accentuating the positive on Soul Traveller Radio. Great to have you with me again. I'm speaking with Tom Cronin, the founder of the Stillness Project. And for those people that cannot see him, he's pretty hot. I've just embarrassed him. He's on a mission. He's on a mission to inspire 1 billion people to meditate, just a little mission, but maybe you can help him out. And we've been hearing his story and what meditation can do for you, and the pros and cons of meditation. I mean, there are always pros, but when you first start, you've got to have as Tom said, you've got to have a teacher to help you guide your way through it, because things shift around, things change. So what do you want to see happen in the world? How do you think teaching 1 billion people to meditate, or how do you think inspiring 1 billion people or 1 billion people being inspired will change the world?
Well, I think what really led me to where I'm at now with the Stillness Project and our mission, and yes, it is a big mission, it's going to keep me going for a while, but if I set my target too small and it reached it too quickly, I wouldn't have anything left to do, so life would get a bit boring. So I thought I'd better set a pretty high target. But it blew me away, absolutely blew me. In fact, I was just gobsmacked that I could be transformed so quickly.
Yeah. From
anxiety, depression, insomnia, constantly sick, constantly tired. I would have said I probably was, OCD, obsessive compulsive, and probably a little bit on the ADHD as well. And yet that all just simply went away, like quite remarkably. It wasn't like overnight, but it was a gradual dissolution or dissolving of those symptoms, those imbalances, those anomalies that I'd accumulated through living an imbalanced life. And I just couldn't believe that the world wasn't doing it, that it was that simple. I had a sounder, I put it inside my head, I sat down for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon, and on so many different levels it changed my life, physically, mentally, emotionally. It scientifically reversed my age. It was proven through some biological age tests at a naturopath. It was just remarkable, and I couldn't understand that it wasn't a global practice. Yeah. And so I became quite fanatical about sharing it with the world, to the point where I probably upset quite a few people, because the one thing I've learned is that there's actually a skill set in sharing things, and imposing your belief system on someone else that isn't open to the idea of it is quite patronizing. So I learned the hard way that it's just about living it rather than preaching it.
Oh, look, hallelujah. I did that with my family too. When I hear you say that, I'm reminded of Rhonda Byrne, who put out The Secret, when she read about law of attraction, because, this is what I teach. She was like, why do we not know about this? Why doesn't the world know about this? And that was her mission too. She was pretty successful, to make a movie, to make it mainstream. And hallelujah, when that movie came out, because I had been preaching it and not living it for years, and my family would look at me and say, "Oh, shut up," because I was just this evangelist, you know.
Yeah. I think people were secretly avoiding me because they knew I was going to talk about meditation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I learned the hard way. I was a very annoying person, I think, because it was just so life-changing for me, and I just really wanted to share it, which is coming from good intention, but I think I stepped on a few people's toes, so I apologise to anyone out there that I pushed meditation onto them when they went over to it. Sorry, everyone. So now it's a little bit more subtle. You know, I do have a big mission, but I've learned a lot. It's just about you know, if people invite you to talk about it, then talk about it, but otherwise just keep living life. You know, at home I'm just a dad, you know, and I just hang out with my kids and hang out with my family, my wife, and go to the beach and surf, and, you know, and when I'm in the chair and people are sitting in front of me and they want to know more, then the knowledge will flow forth. But
yeah, you're a great teacher. I've seen you do your thing.
Thank you. So yeah, I really set out with finding ways to share this technique with the world if people were open to using it. So you know, that was through social media. You know, everything changed from when I started using this technique. We didn't have internet, we didn't have social media, so there's a very different phenomenon to go from learning this technique in 1996, pre-internet, pre-mobile phones, pre-social media, to then going through that transition point where we had the ability to communicate with people all over the world. So I could, you know, grab a camera, video me, put it onto Vimeo or YouTube and share it with the world through blogs and things. It was quite amazing where all of a sudden I had the ability to reach a large world, you know, all corners of the globe. So, you know, it was all about now putting out content. It was like, this is my journey and this is what I went through. And if you want to do that and you want to get free of stress, if you want to get free of anxiety, you can. And there's ways you can do that. So it was just really just bringing stillness out into the world, making it accessible, demystifying it, and just making it something that mums and dads can start to embrace into their day.
Look, you know, when I first saw your work, I loved it because as someone who's been very involved in spiritual practice and healing for a long time, you'd walk into a New Age bookshop and it was so, you know, like hippie, I suppose, you know, with candles and dream catchers and crushed velvet, and that's cool. I went through my hippie stage. My daughter's still a hippie. She thought that I looked crazy. Now she's doing it because hippie's in. But anyway, I'm getting off track. And I love that your whole vibe was so with it, hip now, secular now. You know what I mean? And it sort of was, it was relatable. It was relatable. People could relate to it. As you said, you saw the businessman, Bruno Grollo, meditating in his suit in his office, and you thought, wow, if he can be successful and make lots of money and have a great family and a great business, and he, you know, he's an ardent meditator, and he attributes a lot of his success to his meditation, then this stuff must be not just for rock stars who want to go to India.
Yeah, I guess we want to teach. We teach the way we want to hear it, you know. And I think, you know, I've got friends of mine that are into the whole, you know, dream catchers and Tibetan bowls and crystals and stuff.
And hippies back. I don't know, hippies in.
It's just what they relate to, and I think it just comes down to how I would like to receive knowledge is generally how you want to teach knowledge. And all forms of delivery are relevant because there's going to be a vast array of people that are going to want to hear it. And, you know, some people don't resonate with my teaching because it might be too mainstream or might not be soft enough or not. You know, it's fairly masculine and it's fairly pragmatic. And
science-based.
There's enough, you know, hopefully I bring enough soft enough stuff in there that people can not be too, you know, scared of it. But yeah, it's a little bit of science-based, but just really making it simple and accessible.
Yeah. You know, you remind me of, you said that you didn't have the internet when you first started. When I was listening to meditation tapes, I bought a tape from Deepak Chopra, who talked about meditation, and then it was a tape. Real to real, yeah. And then there's just silence on the rest of it. I thought, this is hysterical. I've paid money for silence. But he said something that was so profound, and I didn't understand it at the time. It's like, do less and achieve more. And meditation is such that it exactly explains meditation. Like, you do less and you achieve health, you achieve joy, you achieve connection. You just achieve so much in the stillness.
And success as well, you know. It's
well, clarity, your mind sharpens.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, that movie Limitless.
Yeah.
And he takes some drug and he's like really sharp and he can read people's minds. And I was thinking at the beginning of that movie, I was thinking, just meditate. You don't need to take the drug. But, you know, at the end of the movie, he says to the guy, I figured out how to do this without the drug. And
that's right.
Yeah. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting back to, I think I asked you the question, what do you want to see happen in the world? Did we answer that question?
Yeah, I guess not completely. I mean, I see that we're in a chronic state of disarray and imbalance in the world. And it really is, even us meditation teachers are swept along by this huge, overwhelming supply of information. You know, we wake up in the morning, we check our phones, and we're at traffic lights, we check our phones, and we're walking down the streets and we're looking at our phones. We've never had that phenomenon before in the history of mankind, you know, within the last 8 years, you know, to go from just walking down the street or just sitting in the car, possibly listening to radio, to, you know, waking up and just having this bombardment of information all day long. And our nervous systems are really struggling with it. And I'm seeing, you know, all around me, around the world, basically, it doesn't matter which country we're in, whether I'm in the remote hills of Bali or downtown New York, wherever it is, I see youth, elderly, everyone is just absolutely consumed by that piece of information that's in their hand called the phone. And it's amazing how much charm that little piece of information has, you know, how much that little gadget has. It's got so much charm that it just gravitates all of our attention. And I feel that as well. I can't believe how strong the pull is for me to go to my phone and scroll through Instagram feeds. It really is quite fascinating, and I'm still not completely sure why we are completely drawn to this process, but it's having a serious effect on us. And one thing is not going to go away. It's actually going to increase. I've read an article just today, actually, only a few hours ago, where Google and Facebook, what they're looking to do. So if you think of a train, you know, runs along the tracks, and the business owns the train, but they don't own the tracks. Now, what Google's looking to do, and Facebook, are looking to actually own the tracks. So they're looking to run and own the way the information is provided to the people. And they're already starting to look into buying up the process of providing information to us, the systems that allow the information to flow through them, the networks. And what they're looking to do is increase the upload and download times to just remarkable. I don't know, understand the technology, but it's
lightning fast speed.
Lightning fast speed, like beyond you've ever known before.
Yeah, well, Sweden has it. Sweden has this incredible, like, I don't know, something terabytes per minute. You can. Yeah, lightning fast speed, Yeah, and so they're obviously looking to go down that route now to expand their businesses, and the information is going to go so quickly. It's going to provide us with technology that's quite remarkable. And the way we're going to manage this, I feel, is to be very structured in taking time out to repair our nervous system from that information flow, to have time of stillness and go into a deeper connection without the technology, without that, that other world outside of us. And I think that meditation, why it's growing so quickly, is because it's just this natural, beautiful balancing act of imbalance happening here with the flood of information, and the balancing act of stillness being much more embraced in our world today. So we just want to provide the opportunity for people to be able to access that. Do you think the kids come in wired for sound? I mean, do you think that they come in energetically ready for that information overload, and they can cope with it better than the people, because I see my generation, for instance, I'm a big tech head. I love technology. I find it wonderful, but a lot of my generation just can't, just don't want to keep up with it. They throw up their hands and they say, oh, it's all too much. But and the kids, of course, are just like on it. Like, they're just, everyone says you want to get something fixed, ask a teenager. And do you think they need to be taught to meditate as well? Do they need that balance as much as well? What's happening? That's
a really good question. I think children have sensitivities more than we used to. We're seeing, I think, a 2,000% increase in children using Ritalin under 12.
Yeah.
A vast increase of children with ADHD and anxiety and depression. Australia's suicide rate went through the roof, which was young teenage girls. And you know,
can I tell you something about an analogy I heard? ADHD always dialed in to higher dimensions.
yeah, that's probably right.
Go on.
Yeah, I don't know enough, to be honest with you. I think we have to be really careful with our children and be aware that they're sensitive nervous systems. And I've got two 14-year-old kids, almost 14, and beautiful children, a boy and a girl, who are twins.
And do they meditate with you?
They do meditate.
And do they love it? Do they get a lot out of it?
Yeah, they do. They don't choose to meditate on their own every day. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go and meditate now. It's like, hey, guys, we're all going to meditate. And they go, okay, Dad. So, you know, kids are kids and they just want to play. They want to have fun. They want to be drawn into this exciting world out there. You know, we've kind of gotten completely overwhelmed by that world by the time we get to 30, 40, 50, and we want to start going inwards, whereas these guys are still exploring out there. So we don't we allow them that expression, but just allow them also the time to recalibrate. They're taking on a lot in the world that we never used to take on. And so I think we do need to be really careful with our children and their nervous systems. They're very sensitive and they're still quite vulnerable, and we're exposing them to a lot that they never were exposed to before. So I think we want to be really aware of what's happening with children, with things like diets, information, what they're exposed to, the way we talk with them. They're very conscious, they're very clear, they certainly are adaptable and pick things up very quickly, but we just want to be cautious and aware.
Beautiful. Well, I applaud you for what you're doing. I think it's great, and big things coming. There's big things in the future from Tom Cronin. Do you want to talk about what you're up to, a few things that you're up to?
Sure. We're producing a feature film with you mentioned The Secret and Rhonda. So Drew Herriot, who directed The Secret, is writing and directing our film called Superhuman, which is very exciting. We're currently scouring the world for superhumans with superhuman capabilities. You can go to superhuman.world is the website, where we actually have an application where if someone does know of a superhuman that has quite remarkable capabilities beyond the average human being, then we'd like to find these people. This is part of the film process of exploring the world and finding, because most superhumans don't want to be known. This is interesting.
What are you talking about? What are you looking for when you say superhuman? Like people with extraordinary like art abilities, singing? I don't know. So you've got human capabilities, which is art and singing, and then I would consider what you've got superhuman capabilities, which might be levitation, teleportation, telekinesis, manifesting things at will, remote healing. And it might be we've seen children that can do third eye reading, that's reading without being able to see objects through intuition. There's quite a people that heal themselves and heal other people. It's superhuman now because it's not the norm. Eventually, what we see as superhuman will be the norm. Absolutely. Well,
we just feel it's time that this becomes part of our reality. And that we've been holding on to a very outdated model for what human is, and that whole duality type relative world experience of pain and suffering, which is very human, and also something we don't want to dismiss. It is a reality of being human, but it's not the only reality. And it's just like saying the ocean only has waves, but the ocean has a depth to it as well, and we don't want to dismiss a deeper part of what our reality is.
There's a new movie coming out in September, which is like a Hollywood version of that. What's it called? It's all over Facebook. I can't remember the name of it. The Extraordinary. It's about children with extraordinary abilities.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole Hollywood thing coming out in September.
What's it called?
Oh, I'd have to have a look on my Facebook feed. But okay, Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Sounds good.
So it's a bit like that, that one where they had the school with the kids. Is it called The X? All those kids that had that. Anyway, I'm terrible with names of movies and actresses and all that sort of thing. But that whole theme, that whole superhuman theme, I absolutely agree with you. Who we are as human beings now and what we can do is nothing compared to who we will become. And I really believe those intuitive and healing abilities will be a part of the norm. I've healed myself instantly by just relaxing, and I don't know, you don't like the word focus, but just focusing on being
Sure.
relaxed.
There's a lot of relevance in focus.
And just asking or seeing it healed and just relaxing. And I've literally beaten up myself and seen the lump come up and go down simultaneously, and I've seen a gouge on my daughter's foot heal over like that so fast that the skin had stopped and there was dirt underneath the skin, and all because of this. But it's really about relaxing. It's not being in that fear. It's like just this knowing, and in that place of knowing there's this incredible relaxation. I can't really even describe, but it's what meditation, it's what you're aiming at in meditation. And
yeah, absolutely.
And that state of knowing. And look, today was a stressful day, and I just did the whole I've got to meditate thing. It's like shut the computer, turn off the phone, because I know the benefits of it. It's just such a beautiful thing. But, I've been coming along to I'm so pleased because you've come back into the East, you've come out of the city, to your meditation nights, because I love meditating in a group. I think the power of, when we come together. Do you want to talk just a little bit about that? We've sort of run out of time, really. It's just a bit about meditating in a group.
Yeah, sure. I mean, everyone's welcome to come along. It's Monday nights, regularly Monday nights. It's not every Monday night. The next one's on March the 21st. That's this Monday at the Plant Gallery in Bondi Road. And, it's really important that I support my students that I've taught in my weekend workshops. If people want to learn, they can learn with me on a weekend workshop here in Bondi, or they can learn online through our 21-day program, where we disrupted that model of teaching meditation and made it available and accessible to everyone around the world. So we have an online program called Faster, Deeper Bliss. And then we have weekend workshops where we teach in the traditional way. So we kind of offered this sort of disrupted model if people want to access that. And, the Monday nights is about supporting our students with ongoing practice and opening it up to the audience, larger audience, to give them an experience of coming into a group meditation experience and having a taste of what meditation's all about. So you can go to Stillness Project and find all that out.
Yeah, I love that blended energy when we meditate together. Look, you're probably full of some stories. I would have loved to have asked you, but, I got too busy chatting, of some of your students, like the benefits, the changes. But have you posted those online? Because I think that's really convincing when you hear other people's stories. This is why I interview people, because I think, hearing people's stories of healing and getting off drugs and just finding a better life and finding a better way to think and feel and be, it's just so powerful. So do you post that on the Stillness Project?
Yeah, if people go to stillnessproject.com, they'll see on the top tab praise, and they'll see quite a number of different stories from people where their lives have been quite changed.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Tom Cronin, thank you.
Thanks so much. Beautiful. Thanks for listening, everyone.
On the show. And how can we find out about when the movie comes out?
Just check in at superhuman.world, and we'll be keeping up to date with everything through that.
Very exciting. Thanks again for being on Accentuate the Positive.
It's great to be here. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for joining us for another enlightened conversation on Accentuate the Positive. If you would like spiritual guidance from my guides, Blissful Beings, go to KarenSwain.com for a reading, or to listen to more enlightened thought leaders share their wisdom. Go to the listen page on KarenSwain.com and choose who you want to listen to. All the podcasts are also available on iTunes. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. Until next time, bye for now.
You know what happiness